71 Huntsville, 68 Decatur, headed for a high of 97 today. Sounds like fall to me, doesn't it to you? Unbelievable. Anyway, we're joined by Janet Feltz. She's a marketing communication specialist for Dynetics, and she has been quiet so far. She's writing and passing stuff around. She's doing her job, I guess, right?
Right, that's right. That's what I do. All right.
Anyway, and Tim Pickens, who is a commercial space advisor, chief propulsion engineer, and the guy who's the team leader of this, again, more than just Dynetics, a lot of companies with various levels of expertise in various areas. And you were, for people who missed it, you were the guy, you were basically the propulsion guy for Dick Rattan's win the last time they had a big X Prize kind of thing, right? So you've got a little experience at this.
Yeah, it's actually Burt Rutan. Dick is his brother who flew the Voyager around the world. So they are brothers.
Okay.
And there is a nice little rivalry between brothers. But yeah, Dick actually...
This is Burt.
This is Burt.
Okay.
Burt's the mad scientist. His brother is the great pilot.
Now, we were talking in during the break, and you said something that kind of struck me, because you said that this commercial space industry is really desperate to do its job, to get back into space, to do all the stuff, to go to Mars, do the moon thing,
that's right.
whatever we can do out there. But they do, and they want us to pay for it, which is the other, and I don't mind that. I think we have to have a bridge. Right. To some degree, because of the vast expense of doing the space thing, because the return on investment isn't going to be there immediately. And I look at, I threw out Velcro as one of them, but I mean, look at all the medical advances. There are spin-offs that make this worthwhile, aren't there?
Oh, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And then the intangible spin-offs, NASA is a single agency that represents the taxpayers at their best in terms of technical achievements, and not for it's not for the sake of war. It's for the sake of peace. It says for the sake of exploration. It's for the good of humanity. It's for a bigger vision. It's pure exploration off the planet, and that representation. I think it's important that we preserve what they represent, and so the NASA piece of this it needs to remain inspiring, and I think that in order for the taxpayers to want to support that, they need to be a leading edge organization, and I believe they do need to do some commercial work, but I think they also owe it to us to balance that with to give us a system and an architecture that will do the job and keep astronauts flying. So we've been working our own programs with the Ares, the Ares 1, the Ares 5, and now they're talking about another system. But I think those systems are important because traditionally we know how to do those things as an agency. So for the taxpayers and the agency, how do we balance the budgets between commercial how do we feed enough commercial money to bootstrap the industry, but at the same time not be relying on the Russians for the next few years? And I think
that's frightening. That it was $50 million an astronaut or whatever, but they're the only game in town. Why wouldn't it be $100 million by the time we need to send an astronaut? There's no other player, I guess, of the Indians or the Chinese. I guess
it is exactly that. In fact, there's a company called Space Adventures who's been brokering all the Owen Garriott, who flew up recently. He paid $35 million or so. There was a Nushan. There have been several who have flown, and basically all these folks. The Russians said, "Hey, the price is changing. We're moving up the food chain. The shuttle is definitely not going to be selling any rides. We're the only game in town." So Space Adventures recently. This is really interesting. Space Adventures teamed up with Boeing. And they're out working with NASA, and they're developing a capsule to basically carry human beings for pay to space. And it'll be going to hopefully things like the space station, but not just that, but to Bigelow Aerospace, a space station called Sundancer.
This is the guy you worked for. Explain this. This is a guy out in Las Vegas who's a billionaire who's basically a hotel in space?
Yeah, basically it's called a hotel. It's a research institute, if you will. It's a laboratory, and it's really cool. If you ever watched maybe Diamonds Are Forever back in the days of James Bond, that's what Bigelow Aerospace looks like in the desert. It is a huge facility. They're building these large space stations. They've put 2 of the smaller ones up, and they've been up there in orbit unmanned for the last 3 years.
Who knew?
Yeah, nobody talks about it.
Wow.
And he did all of this with his own money, and basically he's probably got a couple hundred employees. And anyway, he and I met a few years ago, and he asked me to could we design a rocket engine or a propulsion system for that thing that would allow him to maneuver it around on orbit to keep it from tumbling and to orient it.
Yeah, you got to worry about that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and to keep it, keep the solar panels pointed where they need to be, and those sorts of things. And he asked me to leave my role as president of Orion and work the technical side and design those engines. And basically, these engines would be they're little 5-pound thrust engines that run off hydrogen and oxygen that we make from the wastewater of living there. So basically, we would take the sweat, the urine, and all the exhaling that you do when you're living on board, and the potable water and all those things that you would normally discard. We turn those into hydrogen and oxygen, and we burn it to be able to maneuver it around.
So it's fuel.
Yeah, it's recycled.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool, and that hasn't been done to date, by the way. Today, at the space station, we rely on the Russians' module to maneuver around the space station. It's really toxic propellant. So, so this is a new, kind of a new day where you can try things. And these entrepreneur guys, they're wanting to put their money there to make a difference.
Sure, people, because we don't hear about these people. This is a guy. He's got two things in space that are up there.
Yeah, and you can go to BigelowAerospace.com and see live video from those stations coming back from Earth, and there's logos on the side of the vehicle. It's as a taxpayers program, NASA can't be taking advertisement money.
They should, though.
Yeah, it would be fun.
It would have been how much of the shuttle program could have been paid for with
a Coke,
Coke or Pepsi or Frosted Flakes or whatever you want to put up there.
It would, but the problem is it's always when you're changing something about a launch vehicle and you're painting it with this or that, it's always an expensive endeavor and a program.
Because it wouldn't just be regular paint. It would have to be something that doesn't kill somebody.
So our big sticker or logo. So we those things are they're not always as easy as they seem, but so it's a really interesting format.
Before we get to the X Prize, I want to throw one more thing in about NASA. The thing that has always irritated me about when the politicians get a hold of this thing, NASA was always over here, and Veterans Affairs was always over here. Are we going to help veterans, or are we going to fund this space program? And it's like, why are they competing entities? Both are necessary. And you're sitting there going, what in the world are these guys? No wonder we want them all coming back and we want to replace them.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's such a small price to pay for inspiring these kids to get into math and science. I mean, there's nothing more inspirational than one of these launches or watch these guys on TV. Yeah, things could look a little more fun in terms of some of the formats and experiments. I think we need to hire a Disney or someone to do some of those productions. But
making it fun is something that so this X Prize thing. This is kind of a nice little dovetail into that. The Google folks have basically with people who I guess they have recruited to help fund this thing. It's $30 million to the winner, right? And you're
basically $20 million to the winner. There's second prizes, so the most you could win is $20 million.
So you have multiple groups who are going to be, for this to be a successful campaign, there are going to be several groups going to the moon and doing what's necessary. There's going to be one winner, but in reality, there'll be several groups actually doing this.
Yeah, and there'll be a second place winner, and then there could be third place, and there's different milestones. If you happen to be lucky enough to land at a historic landing site and see a lunar lander legs there, and you can get a shot of that, that's worth quite a bit of money.
So that's a bonus, bonus incentive.
That's right.
So this is like we celebrate capitalism every day as we're at the top of every hour. This is real entrepreneurial stuff. This is really putting your billions where your mouth is, because it's going to cost money to do this.
It is, and NASA's just recently put out basically a solicitation to buy data from these sorts of missions, by the way. So it's really cool that they're not going to be spending much money to get the data. I can assure you, if they spend $20 million to get a lot of data about the moon, if we land on the South Pole, and that's where we're planning to go, and they learn some things and get some data that they've never had, there's no way would they be able to do those sorts of missions for $20 million. That's just to be unheard of. So we're willing to take those risks.
Tim Pickens, he's the team leader for this group that wants to get the big Google X Prize, going to the moon and doing some stuff and coming back. More just ahead.